you got to find that thing that people just intrinsically want to either hashtag or wear or it's the movement in what they do. The Philly press is so funny. The gym I go to now, and I think maybe I text messaged the GM and I was busting his balls. He had Philly press in the workout.
Yeah.
He spelled it PH, and I think I texted him. I think I said something. I was like, brother, give credit where credit's due, goddammit. But no, it's one of these deals where, do you think about that in your programming? We talked about like, okay, how do I continue to make functional bodybuilding unique? Right. Mm-hmm. I can't like, sure, it definitely looks different, but the more people that copy it, the more my need to pull away and really make it unique to where even when people copy it, be like, oh no, that's totally functional bodybuilding. That's what Marcus Philly created. Do you think of that? Like, are you ever in here like playing with like, okay, I'm gonna try to like, it's so hard, but I'm gonna try to invent or stylize a movement that no one has currently stylized. That way I could give it the Philly press or some kind of name and it becomes synonymous across. And again, that adds to the legacy and the talk trigger level of the brand.
Here's my thoughts on that. Like getting something to be stylized and look a particular way that's unique, that like is eye-catching. I think it can be a little short-sighted because like when it comes to fitness and strength and conditioning, we're not like discovering new things. We're just trying to get more people to do the same stuff. And how we package it and the feeling people have when they do it, that's what's different from like program to program or coach to coach. It's like, hey, you did a little bit more of this and it feels a certain way, or you did a little more of that. And if I'm taking like the basics of like, we're going to squat, we're going to hinge, we're going to push, we're going to pull, we're going to do some core work, we're going to do some single leg work, and these are the 50 core exercises. If I can take something and maybe put a little spin, it makes it feel like a different stimulus for somebody slightly. But it's still a press, you know? So a Philly press, like I didn't go out of my way to be like, let's do something totally different. It was like, I'm doing unilateral presses and I'm like, oh, okay, this feels a little different.
Locking it out behind the shoulder blade. Like,
Yeah. Early on in functional bodybuilding and Awaken Training Series, I was doing a lot of like movement exploration, like let's take this exercise and let's change this. And, you know, it's why we have an exercise library on YouTube that's 2,500, 3,000 movements. Like there's a lot of movements because there's 115 different dumbbell row variations on there. We just put together an email. It was 114 dumbbell row variations. It was like this newsletter / blog article that got posted on a lot of different sites, and there was a YouTube that went along with it. It was great. It was like tons of good information in there and a link to all 114 YouTube episodes or videos that we have on how to do a dumbbell row. It was like single arm dumbbell row, bilateral, you know, with a band pull, you know, pressing and pulling and like, you know, you name it, right? At some point, those like, I was really into the exploration of that because I was in this world of doing the same 9 exercises freaking all the time. CrossFit. I was just like, I mean, I burpeed, power clean, thrustered. Like I did that, you know, it was constantly varied. That was just how they were coordinated together. It wasn't the movements. Like we did the same 10 things every day. So I was thirsty for some variety because it helped me get out of this, like this, you know, painful intensity, like crush that I was in all the time. And I think a lot of people like that too. They were like, oh, this is fun. Like I'm getting to try new things. But after some period of time, it's like, well, constantly changing up and doing new variations isn't actually like effective from a progressive overload standpoint. Like we have to have a foundation of like very core movements that we do and a periodic like nuanced movement that you do in the training is fun and varied, and it gives you some good training reps, and it gets you out of the mindset of like, I have to lift this heavy, but the core of the training needs to be like a little bit more simple. And one piece of feedback that we'll get from time to time is like, at least in the ATS days, like, man, it's just like, it's too many things to set up and I'm having to watch videos all the time. And it's like, okay, well, that maybe got some attention. So I'll put some of those movements like on social media. But when people arrive like at the training, it's like
simple.
It's got to be more simple just so that they can have success. And I'm not trying to like bait and switch, be like, hey, I showed you that I was doing this wacky movement over here and now I'm just having you do Bulgarian split squats. It's like, no, it's always a bit of both. And I always like to show the simple stuff and, you know, some more complex movements online. But the foundation of FBB is like, here's very simple stuff to do that's elegantly balanced. And we have this whole concept of like, you know, we're going to approach some of these sort of variation movements that you haven't seen very much to build what we call strength balance. So I think of more like creating aspects of training or formats of training or, you know, sections of training that are really dedicated to the exploration of movement. And that might be the area that people like, when you're doing a functional bodybuilding program and there's back squats and there's strict press and there's Bulgarian split squats, no one's going to look at that and be like, oh yeah, that's functional bodybuilding.
Yeah.
But when it's time to do like single arm dumbbell presses and, a kickstand goblet pistol squat
Gorilla
and
rows.
and with like jumping on a bike, like people might be like, oh yeah, that's got a little bit of a, Marcus Philly functional pump conditioning format to it. I recognize that.